As we move into our practice evaluation module, we want to kind of begin to think about why evaluating our own practice becomes important as social workers. So, the first piece we want to think about is what exactly is practice evaluation? And so, practice evaluation is really aiming to assess and evaluate the effectiveness of practice interventions. That is, the practice interventions that we implement with oftentimes individual clients. And when we begin to kind of think about why it matters, we want to begin to think about one approach that we will discuss among other approaches. So, specifically, we're going to focus on a single case design. And a single case design is a methodology to assess the effectiveness of work with clients. This is one of the many tools that can be utilized to assess and evaluate the effectiveness of the work with clients. And so, typically, in a single case design, we are aiming to empirically evaluate practices with individuals, families, or groups. For the practice evaluation proposal that you will be developing, you're going to be focusing on an individual. I want to highlight what some of those strengths are of using a single case design in particularly. So with a single case design, what we're able to do is we're able to monitor and evaluate the practice that is the intervention that we're implementing with clients, given that unique case of a client. It also gives us a great lens that allows us to improve our actual practice. So, based upon what we're learning from doing work with individual clients, but also assessing our own practice, it allows us to refine our practice as we move forward as social workers. It also provides important information for our clients as well, because as we do our practice evaluation, specifically through a single case design, we're building a rapport in the relationship so that as we see improvements in clients, we're also providing that information to clients as we move forward because they are part of the process. Further, it also generates information for the social work profession. And what I mean with that is that as we continue to use specific approaches, interventions, and techniques with clients, we're able to develop a toolbox around what are the actual interventions that we've implemented that have actually worked with clients. And so, to that end, we're able to then begin to contribute to the social work profession around what are effective practices with clients. I would say that then some of the limitations associated with a single case design is this idea that a case design can only approximate casual knowledge, meaning that the claims that can be made about the intervention can only be speculative. That it is not possible that the intervention worked, but we cannot state that it actually worked with certainty, right? However, I would argue that even as we approximate casual knowledge, we have some data that we've collected over a period of time that at least gives us some knowledge base, but also some insight around the progress that our clients have been making while they've been receiving the intervention, but how effective that intervention has been for clients. The other piece that I would like to highlight around the limitations is that oftentimes a single case design may not fit all practice situations in clients. So, for example, if we're involved in more short-term work with clients, a single case design may not actually work as well for with clients. If we're working with individuals who have cognitive impairments, this single case design approach may not necessarily actually work as well with clients who have cognitive impairments. Further, the other limitation that I'd like to highlight is that some clinicians may find that a single case design is difficult and impossible at times to obtain baseline and follow up measurements. So when I begin to actually talk about some of the single case design methods, it makes sense because some of the actual designs do require that we obtain a baseline first before the intervention, and that we do follow-up measurements after clients actually leave the actual intervention that they were involved in. So I'm going to highlight four commonly used single case designs. Um, and in these single case designs, what I want to kind of underscore is that the designs themselves are really laid out to assess at different points in times the effectiveness of the actual intervention. And I want to remind us that a design is a way that it allows us to collect the data that we need to assess the actual effectiveness. So the first design that I'm going to talk about is the ABA design. The first A signifies the baseline. The B signifies the intervention, and the second A signifies a follow up. This design oftentimes works very well when we have clients that will be long term, but specifically when we're able to generate a baseline for clients, and the baseline being is where were clients before we actually implemented the intervention. The follow-up piece here around the second A sits that after clients have actually left the program, we're able to reassess them again to determine if the intervention that was implemented has a long-term impact on the client. The second design is an A-B design. In an A-B design, again, the A signifies the baseline and the B, the intervention. And in this design, what's happening is that we're just establishing a baseline and then we're doing the intervention, and there is no actual follow-up. The third design is simply a B. We intervene because the intervention is much necessary at that point, and it requires immediacy for the intervention to happen. Oftentimes, this design is employed when we have clients who may actually be in crisis. So all we can actually do is provide the intervention itself. The challenge with this design, obviously, is that there is no baseline. So we never know where the client was before the actual intervention. And further, we're not able to assess at a later time after they left the intervention if the intervention we offered actually was effective for the client. The next design I'm going to talk about is a repeated pre-test, post-test design, or RPPD. And what's happening in our RPPD is that the actual measurements to assess the effectiveness of the intervention are happening immediately before and after treatment. This allows us to assess immediately if the actual intervention that has been implemented with a client within one session is actually effective. So, for example, if we are applying a therapeutic approach, what would technically happen here is that before we implement the therapeutic approach, the client would first, again, take an actual assessment first. The intervention would happen, and then right after the intervention, they would also then take a post test. So what we're able to do is compare within that one session if there was a difference between the pre-test and the post-test. The next piece I want to begin to kind of highlight then is what is the process of practice evaluation as a whole. So the first thing that we're beginning to do in process evaluation is really acquire information about the prospective client. So we're gathering information that can include an intake, source of referral, demographic information, client's family employment, school history, the extent of the client's presenting issue, problem, why the client was referred, who referred the client. The information is also gathered to see if the social worker can engage the client in dealing with uh, their presenting problem. This then allows us, as we're gathering data, to think about what are the data that we will need to actually establish a baseline for the client. And when we begin to talk about assessments for baseline, I will unpack this idea around a baseline a little bit more around what it means to establish a baseline. The one thing I do want to say is that to establish a baseline, we want to make sure that we are collecting multiple sources of data over a period of time to establish a baseline. The next part then of the process of practice evaluation is to then develop an actual intervention given what the baseline actually is for the client, including we're identifying the appropriate intervention and we're implementing the appropriate intervention as a whole. The last part of this process is around conducting a follow up. And what I underscored specifically in the ABA design is that oftentimes we want to make sure that we're assessing if after clients actually are discharged from interventions that there's a long-term effect connected to the actual intervention. And I think this is what differentiates this process of practice evaluation, a single case design, is that it's aiming to intentionally assess if the intervention actually had a long-term impact on clients.